Norse in Wonderland, when nothing's as it seems. Norse in Wonderland, the truth will haunt your dreams. Norse in Wonderland, when nothing's as it seems. Norse in Wonderland, the truth will haunt your dreams.
Imagine waking up, strapped to a hospital bed. You're injected with LSD. Bright lights flash in your eyes. Words repeat endlessly through speakers. You can't move. You can't stop it. And the worst part, it's not a nightmare. It's an experiment funded by your government. Welcome back to Norse in Wonderland. I'm your host, and today we're entering the shadows of one of the most disturbing government programs ever revealed, MKUltra. A classified operation led by the CIA with a goal so dark it sounds like science fiction. But this isn't fiction, it's historical fact. And the deeper we go, the more uncomfortable it becomes. This episode includes sensitive content about psychological experimentation, trauma, and human rights violations. As always, use discernment and remember, the truth doesn't need permission to exist. They called it behavioral modification. I call it crowdsourced personality theft. If the CIA spent millions trying to control people's minds, I'd at least like a refund for the ones they broke. MKUltra taught us two things. LSD is powerful, and so is plausible deniability. MKUltra was officially launched in 1953 under the then CIA Director Alan Dulles. Its purpose, at least on the surface, was to research techniques that could be used to counter Soviet and Chinese brainwashing during the Cold War. But behind closed doors, its objectives went far beyond defensive research. The program was overseen by Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, a man often referred to as the Black Sorcerer of the CIA due to the nature of his experiments. Under his direction, MKUltra spawned more than 149 sub-projects, many of which were carried out in hospitals, universities, prisons, and military installations, often without the subject's knowledge or consent. This wasn't theoretical. It was active experimentation on real people. The core of MKUltra's work centered around breaking down the human mind. LSD and other psychedelics were administered to civilians and military personnel without their consent to observe psychological collapse and suggestibility. Some of these individuals never fully recovered. Electroshock therapy was used, not as treatment, but as a tool to wipe memory and shatter personality. The levels of voltage far exceeded anything deemed therapeutic. Participants were subjected to long periods of sensory deprivation and isolation, which are known to induce hallucinations, depersonalization, and psychosis. In some cases, individuals were placed into barbiturate-induced comas for weeks. During this time, they were subjected to repeated audio loops, phrases played over and over again to embed commands deep into the subconscious. In Canada, at McGill University, Dr. Ewan Cameron conducted what he called depatterning, a method that used high-voltage electroshock and drug-induced amnesia to wipe a person's memory completely. Some of his patients regressed to a childlike state, losing language, identity, and motor function. These experiments were carried out under MKUltra's Subproject 68. At no point was informed consent a priority in these experiments. Prisoners, psychiatric patients, and vulnerable populations were routinely targeted because they were seen as disposable or unlikely to speak out. One MKUltra branch, known as Project Midnight Climax, involved setting up CIA-controlled brothels where sex workers were instructed to lure men into rooms rigged with one-way mirrors. There, these men were unknowingly dosed with LSD, while agents observed their behavior from behind the glass. Some of those targeted under MKUltra ended up dead. One of the most well-known cases is that of Frank Olson, a CIA biochemist who was allegedly dosed with LSD without his knowledge. Days later, he fell to his death from a hotel window. Whether it was suicide or something else remains contested to this day. Officially, MKUltra was said to focus on resisting foreign interrogation techniques. but declassified documents suggest much more was at play. The goals extended to memory erasure, inducing dissociative identity disorder, creating mind-controlled couriers or assassins who wouldn't consciously remember their missions. The phrase Manchurian Candidate became popular in fiction, but MKUltra may have been its real-world prototype. If they succeeded in splitting consciousness, how many people today are walking around unaware they were ever part of a classified psychological operation? In 1973, during the height of the Watergate scandal, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered most MKUltra's files destroyed. This was not an act of transparency, it was damage control. 2 years later, in 1975, the Church Committee hearings revealed fragments of MKUltra to the public for the first time. The full scope of the program was never disclosed. Survivors who attempted to sue were often met with silence, dismissal, or quiet settlements. Senator Frank Church warned the American people, "The CIA has the ability to impose total tyranny, and there would be no way to fight back." And that was before the internet, before algorithms, before biometric tracking. Although the CIA claims MKUltra officially ended in the late 1970s, mind control research didn't stop. It simply changed names. Programs like Project Stargate explored remote viewing and other psychic phenomena, while newer classified behavioral studies have pushed into even more subtle forms of influence. Modern methods now include neurolinguistic programming, mass media psychological operations, and frequency-based technologies, which may overlap with discussions around EMFs and even HARP. If the CIA was pursuing mind control in the 1950s using chemicals and torture, what might they be capable of today with technology, data, and surveillance networks? Do you believe mind control is just science fiction, or is it simply hidden science? Where is the line between defense and violation when it comes to psychological research? How much consent do you really have in a system that controls what you see, hear, and believe? Today's affirmation: my mind is sovereign and free. My thoughts are mine to keep. I remain grounded in my truth, aligned with my will, and anchored in my unbreakable spirit. Thank you for joining me in this deep dive into MKUltra and the hidden history of psychological warfare. If this episode helped you see things differently, consider sharing it with someone who still trusts the narrative, or who needs a gentle nudge to ask the next question. Follow Norse in Wonderland for more stories that pierce the veil, uncover buried truths, and empower your sovereignty. Until next time, stay aware, stay grounded, and stay free. And as always, if anything happens to me, it's more than a convenient accident. I didn't do it myself. I'm happy, healthy, and cautious.
Chasing the rabbit, down we must go. Where does it end? Nobody knows. Hurry up now, we're running out of time. You better keep up or get left behind. Norse in Wonderland, where nothing's as it seems.